Have you ever met the guy that you wanted to hate? And when you went to pull your straps up, he told you to wait. Now let me give y'all a little demonstration. See, I ran into these dudes from the Aryan Nation. It was a Friday, my day, exit off the highway. Me and Derelict in the caddy, yo, the flyway. Went to get a package of beaties. I was enjoying this immaculate evening. All of a sudden I heard somebody in the back of us beeping. Kind of annoying, like a track is repeating. Say yeah, mo, harass some blacks.
Peace and love, peace and love. Peace and love. This is yours truly, General Pow Shadowz of the House of Hip Step, back with another good and informative video on this NGR Exposed platform. And of course, some of you also know me as author P.E. McCallum, author of the book NGR, What Does It Mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective. That's right. Get a good look at that. Get a good look at that. And make sure that you run over to Amazon right now and get your copy. It's available in audiobook, paperback, and Kindle. So get your copy today and support this platform and all of the things that we're doing over here. So listen, yo, the N-word. So you know this platform is dealing with the N-word, all aspects of it. Of course, you know we deal with the history, the origins, the etymology of the N-word, the social impact of the N-word, but also issues surrounding race relations, and healing from the effects of racism and white supremacy, right? And let's talk about it. Let's talk about this today because I heard some things over the weekend. I've been seeing some things on the internet that definitely I want to address. So there's a person, a YouTube personality by the name of Nick Fuentes. You may know him. He, I think I'm saying his name right. He rose to popularity by having several viral videos, basically going viral for using the N-word, right? As a white person or a person of European descent, as I like to refer to white people as people of European descent. And you'll hear me say black and indigenous people when referring to black people, because my knowledge and research has taught me that that's an appropriate way to address these groups, these two groups. So Nick Fuentes blew up, pretty much went viral for using the N-word boldly. Now, he wouldn't say it in a disrespectful fashion. One of the times I heard him say it, he was with other black and indigenous people, like mainly women, on another podcast on YouTube, and he said the N-word, and I mean, it was shock value. You know, people use the shock value of the N-word to get paid, all right? People use the N-word to get paid. You know what I mean? The N-word is considered the most offensive word in the English language, according to dictionary.com. So a word that polarizing, that controversial, that offensive, of course, it can be used to get money. You know what I'm saying? So you had Nick Fuentes back in the news right now. Like I said, over the past 10 years, he's risen to fame. You know, mostly we know him for using the N-word, you know? And of course, you know, criticizing black and indigenous people. Now you have the other day, Young Thug, the rapper Young Thug, put out a new song called Ninja, right? And in his new song Ninja, you know, which I think is, I thought it was pretty comical that he used ninja, because I heard the term ninja being used to replace the N-word back in LA, like back in 2008. A friend of mine by the name of LA Cool, also known as Rifleman, shout out to the Project Blow family, some of the most fierce MCs on the planet Earth. My man AC Alone and the whole crew out there. Hans, I see you. Bad Drew, all you brothers, love y'all. And but my man LA Cool was like, "What's up, my ninja?" You know, and that's the first time I heard it. That was way back in 2010, and now, you know, you hear it. I've been using it a lot. But Young Thug used it in his verse, in his song that he called Ninja. So nowadays we're using Ninja to replace the N-word. And why? Why would he do that, right? He goes, you know, the song starts out pretty regular, pretty, you know, it's what you were used to hearing from Young Thug, you know what I'm saying? And then he goes into some sections toward the end of the song. He's like, nigger, I'm a nigger. I run around with my niggers. I'm a nigger. And he says it with the hard R like that. You know, even put the auto tune on it, which was nasty work, right? But you know, and it's for shock value. The same reason that Nick Fuentes used it for shock value to get paid. I mean, even I've used it. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably the first person on record to use it like that in recent times on a song that's documented. If you go back on the internet, look on look on YouTube and Google, do a search for Pow Shadowz Fly is the name of the song, produced by AC the PD, you know what I mean, out there in LA. On my album Caught You Out There, Please Stop Swagging, I have a song called Fly. And I'm like, nigga, definitely not a nigger. I say that in the song. You know what I'm saying? I say, nigga, definitely not a nigger, with the hard R. And I'm the first person I've heard use it like that in recent times. You know what I'm saying? And one of my friends of European descent was chilling with me at the spot one day, and I played the song for him. And when that part came on, his eyes got kind of big and he was like, wow. And at the end of the song, I was like, what you think about that? You know, the song. And he was like, man, I think that was pretty bold. You know, it's like, that's pretty bold of you to use it. You know, and what I was saying was true, you know, nigga, definitely not a nigger, right? Because the Nigger version of the N-word, which originally comes from NGR. See, when it's in the NGR form, and we're going to talk about that because I'm going to read a section. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But the proper form of the N-word is NGR. You know, the Nigger is the grafted, the modernized version of it that is considered, you know, horrible word that we hate, that creates shock value. Y'all remember that lady up in somewhere up north, I believe. But anyway, it was a Caucasian lady of European descent, right? She called a young black and indigenous child who was 5 years old the N-word at a playground. You know, accused him of trying to steal something. I think he grabbed her purse by accident. But anyway, she was calling him the N-word right there in the park in front of everybody. And she got blown up on social media. I think she lost her job and she got fired. Well, don't you know she got a payday for that? If I'm not mistaken, she got over $1 million on a GoFundMe for using the N-word, just getting paid off the N-word. What do you think is going to happen with Young Thug's song? Everybody's like, yo, you heard him? Nigger, you heard that? Like when I say it right now, it's polarizing, right? It hits different. It gets a rise out of you, right? It hits you a certain type of a way. That's what the N-word does. And these people, black and indigenous people of European descent, people have figured out now that you can use the N-word and get a payday. They figured it out. I can say disparaging things. I can use ethnic slurs and say disparaging things about black and indigenous people, and I can get paid, right? So people are using the N-word to get paid. So I want to read a little bit from my book, NGR. What does it mean? An expose on the N-word and address just that. That's why I wrote this book, so we can go into stuff like this, because as you see, it's always in play. The N-word is always in play. It's always coming up. This is page 10 in my book. You know, page 10. All right, the intro. Taken from the intro. According to dictionary.com, the N-word is probably the most offensive word in the English language. We know about the British colonizers and slave traders who seem to love to use the word, according to what we've seen, read, and heard about in movies, books, and testimonials. It has become such a devastating word to our American consciousness that it's hard not to cringe when you hear it with the hard R. As a culture, Americans generally dislike the hard R, and understandably so. Black and indigenous men, women, and children have historically been discriminated against, redlined, and even lynched behind the harmful applications of the word. Black and indigenous men, women, and children have historically been discriminated against, redlined, and even lynched behind the harmful applications of the word. We have seen horrible atrocities done to black and indigenous people in the Americas and abroad, and as a society have grown to despise the N-word, at least when presented with the hard R. But for some reason, even with this tumultuous history, Many members of the Black and Indigenous community have embraced the word and even see it as a term of endearment. Nigger is an ethnic slur, contrary to belief, not an endearment term, and we should only accept it in its proper form. When I say this in my song, NGR Part 1, it may lead to the question, well, what is its proper form? If there is a proper form, and some will argue there is, and some might say there is not, that appropriate form would be NGR according to history. Since the educational system limits what is taught about minorities in America and, in particular, Black and Indigenous people, it may be years, if ever, before any critical discussion about the N-word in the educational system is even considered. What y'all think about that? And that can be found in my book, NGR, What Does It Mean? An Expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective. So, let's unpack some of that. So, like I said, it's according to dictionary.com, the N-word is probably the most offensive word in the English language. And so being the most offensive word in the English language, whenever you say things that are offensive, even when you say things, whether they're extremely good, whether they're extremely bad, when they stir up emotions in people, that's the recipe for a payday. And man, it's really sad to see, and it's really deep to see that the N-word is deep. You know what I mean? To see that people can actually use the N-word and are using it to get paid, to get a payday. Shock value. Nick Fuentes, people like him, who I've looked at some of his commentary, and yes, from what I saw, he has some disparaging things to say about Black and Indigenous people that were not very kind, that were not very friendly. And so I don't know where he's getting this pass from Black and Indigenous people, because I've heard him say some things, but then I've also heard him say some things, that were somewhat favorable, right? I don't want to say he's a suspected racist, right? I don't know the man. I never met him. I can't detect enough in his work to call him a white supremacist. But what I do know is that he used that N-word for shock value and to get into the algorithm of the internet. Young Thug, he used that N-word for shock value. The white woman who used the word up north against the young Black and Indigenous child has a payday, right? George Zimmerman, way back when Trayvon Martin got deleted by George Zimmerman. And remember, he got fired and he started a GoFundMe, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, he raised a lot of money. He raised a lot of money for his court costs and his lawyer fees and everything for deleting Trayvon Martin. And it's become a payday. It's become profitable to use the N-word. It's become profitable to say disparaging things of shock value towards the Black and Indigenous community. Now there's a payday for that. Does Nick Fuentes get a pass for using the N-word? I have a section in my book called At Your Own Risk. And it's on page 164 in my book. Is it okay for whites to use the N-word? This is taken from my book. I revisit this question throughout this work because it's important, but it also has no right or wrong answer. This is a question one must ask and answer for themselves. So again, this expose is not meant to answer these questions for you or attempt to tell you what to think about the N-word, because in the words of Black Sheep, the choice is yours. You could get with this or you could get with that. You could do this or you could do that. So you could use the N-word or you could not use it. Whatever you do is what you choosing. I want to be clear when I ask whether it is okay for whites to use the N-word. I think the underlying question is, how will Black people respond if a white person uses the N-word? That's the question. right? It's not about whether it's okay for white people. I think the question is, how will black and indigenous people respond? That's what everybody wants to know. That's where the danger comes in, because on the one hand, if we say it's cool, yeah, Nick, it's cool, go ahead. He got permission. You know, when I saw him use it on the podcast Fresh and Fit, right, with the group of black and indigenous women that he used it in front of, the clip that really went viral, he was real careful to get their permission first. He didn't just jump out there. He didn't just jump out there and start using the word like haphazardly, willy-nilly. He was like, is it okay? Is it okay? Because, you know, it could have totally flipped on him, and those black and indigenous women could have started hitting and biting and scratching. You know, it wouldn't have been a good thing for him. So it's always at your own risk. I mean, but when a black and indigenous person like Young Thug uses it, right? It's like, well, he got a pass. He black, right? You know, he's a real nigga, right? Like Nick Fuentes says, where the real niggas at? With the A, right? With the soft A as opposed to the hard R. Man, when I saw Nick Fuentes ask where the real niggas at as a white person, whoa, I was like, whoa. The N-word is like, whoa. And people getting paid off the N-word, like, whoa. Now I got money in the bank, like, whoa. From what the internet think, like, whoa. Yeah, man, they're using it to get paid. The N-word is being used to get people paid, right? So using the N-word is profitable. So I want y'all to know that when people like Nick Fuentes use the N-word, you know, it's to rile you up, it's to go viral. You know, just like he did, it worked. Young Thug, he used it in his song, it's to go viral. It's working. I'm talking about it right now. And but I want you to know that sometimes, and this is nasty work, what they're doing now, right? Some of these people of European descent, they figured out a cheat code that, hey, we can use the N-word, we can say disparaging things, negative things, degrading things about the black and indigenous people in particular. Use the N-word, call them the N-word, and we can get paid. We start a GoFundMe. You know, nasty work. Sick. But that's what's happening. And we need to be up on game. This is yours truly, General Pow Shadowz of the House of Hip Step, also known as author P.E. McCallum, author of the book NGR. What does it mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective. I need y'all to go to Amazon. Support me. Please buy the book, audio book, paperback, and Kindle, so you can read it. And then later on, you can, when I start taking live calls or whatever, you can leave it in the comments. You know, just leave me a comment about what you think, and you know, I'll actually bring it up in one of my next videos. So get the book, leave a comment with your name. I'll shout you out, and we'll address your comment or your concerns in the future videos. All right. So remember to keep hip stepping. What is hip stepping? Hip stepping is keeping it moving regardless to whom or what. Hip stepping over all your obstacles, anything that's in your way. Don't let nothing stop you from achieving your goal, all right? And spread love, not hate. How hard is that to do, man? Spread love, not hate, all right? And keep your head up above all things.